The sun is being very cooperative today.
Can we take photos without flash?
Yes, and just no flash on a portrait.
Right.
Yeah, but other than that, that's fine.
Back in Pennsylvania, we haven't had one whole day without a little bit of rain.
Oh my goodness, your flowers are probably great, not like mine. Right?
They're probably drowning. That's probably what they're doing. I don't know.
That's probably it. Good morning. Oh, it's afternoon. I do 2 tours and I never know which one's which. My name's Amy. I'm a volunteer tour guide here at the Capitol. There are rules in the Capitol. They're great rules. You can take pictures everywhere and anywhere today. There's no restrictions other than a flash on a portrait. The other really great thing about the tour is that I will have you for an hour. So is everybody okay with an hour? Are you on a meter? Got to go. If you have to go early, you what?
Oh, no.
Okay. And then, so you can stay after the tour is over. This building, we don't lock you in the gift shop on the way after you're done. You know, I have lots of whales from the aquarium, you know what I mean? Because I put you in the, we don't do that. We have a lovely gift shop, but it's not even in the building. So you can go back and revisit anything we've seen and even see more things that you might be interested in that I didn't talk about, okay? So welcome. This is actually Albany's 2nd Capitol building. I'm born here, didn't know that, because when this one was finished, they tore the first one down. And I never knew that until I started these tours. The reason is this: the first one we occupied it in 1889. So we were the same geographic size, we were not the same population size. We were small. And by the time the 1850s rolled around, we were huge with population and money. So what we really wanted, the government, really good idea, the government wanted one building that would house everything, meaning the governor, both legislative bodies, the state library, the Court of Appeals, the Attorney General, everybody, all the state workers, one building. So that's why they wanted something this huge. The way they got their architect to build this building, they sent out advertisements. It actually was about this big in the newspaper, all over the country, our country, and into Canada. And it literally said, State of New York, building a Capitol. If you're an architect, send us your plans. Meaning, like what? How would that work, right? It created ultimately a design contest. And so 30 architects from across the country sent in their plans and said, oh, pick me, pick me. We actually found our architect in that manner. His name was Thomas Fuller, the first one. There were 5 total. The first one, Thomas Fuller, he was a British national. He had a practice in Canada, best known for the Ottawa Parliament building in Canada, if anybody's ever been there.
Pictures.
His plan for this building looked very similar to that building. He said, I can build that building for you in 4 years at a cost of $4 million. We said, all right, that sounds good. We hire him. 7 years later, he comes back to the Capitol Commission and he said, I'm going to need just a little more money to get the building done, maybe another $8 million would be good. And they fired him. They said, no, thank you. It wasn't Mr. Fuller's fault. What happened to him would have happened to anyone who got the contract for this building. He ran into issues with the ground underneath. The ground underneath this building had remains of glacial silt, which acted like quicksand. So you couldn't put this solid masonry building on top of something that was moving. He had to literally start over with the ground underneath. So he was only able to get the basement done and 2 exterior walls in 7 years. Would have happened to anybody. So we hired 2 new men at the time. Henry Hobson Richardson from Boston. He is best known for Trinity Church in Boston. And Leopold Eiblitz from New York City. The Gothic architect. You can tell even our signs about our restorations are Gothics, right? Gothic architect. Pointy, hard, cold, gargantuan creatures and weird things, right? Mr. Henry Hobson Richardson, hand on my heart, his style of architecture is called Richardsonian Romanesque. It's named for him. He has his own style, Richardsonian Romanesque. He's soft, he's round, he's fuzzy. He uses beautiful colors. You feel different in a space designed by Richardson than you do in a space designed by Eiblitz. This feels like a cathedral to me, not like a Capitol. So, just going forward. So how long did it take? It took 32 years to build the building. 32 years. 4 was a shy estimate. The building was occupied as it was completed. It wasn't vacant for 32 years. When something was finished, that group moved in. Senate's finished, Senate moves in. So that's how it worked. There was just no front door. The total cost was $25 million. That number we know for a fact because it happened on January 1, 1899. That's how much had been spent on the building. New governor comes into office. You may know him. His name's Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt said, I'm not authorizing another nickel for that building. That building's finished. And he declared the building done. And so he sent all the workers home.
I've been running Montana State Capitol.
Look at the ceiling.
Anybody feel the difference in here compared to
Nice.
Oh yeah.
where we just were? That's what I'm talking about with those architects. You can see if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Whatever you like to do. All right, so welcome. You are the public. So you are in the public gallery and you're overlooking the New York State Senate chamber or floor. I kind of use them interchangeably. Here in New York State, we're considered bicameral. All but one state in the country is bicameral. That just means we have two legislative bodies. We call this one the New York State Senate. We call the other one the New York State Assembly. We don't use the word house here in New York. We don't use, yeah, so Assembly and Senate. That's how we, Assembly member and senator, that's how we do it. This room obviously wasn't designed by your Gothic architect. This is, in fact, Henry Hobson Richardson. He is known in his career for this space. It's so, it speaks of him so well. I'm going to talk about the materials he picked because that's what makes the room feel different than the Gothic guy. This is marble, although it's pink marble, so it has a softer feel to it, to me. The pink marble is from the state of Tennessee. This is granite. This is from the state of New York. Someone asked me if they're solid, and I only say I hope so. The side walls, those are my favorite pieces of the whole room. I think the tiles, those square tiles, that's travertine. Travertine probably came from Turkey in those days, if you can imagine. The square, he's framed each one of those tiles. You see that yellow stone, and it's also over your head. That's marble from Italy. That's Sienna marble from Italy. Can you imagine? Above the tiled ceiling or wall on that side, you can see 23 karat gold leaf, and the ceiling is hand-carved oak. Wow, hand-carved oak. Really amazing. I currently have 63 senators. Each senator represents 250,000 people. Each assembly member only represents 175,000 people, which is interesting. 250,000 people, that's a lot of people to represent. Right now, 63 senators. When this room opened in 1881, I had 32 senators because it's tied to population in New York. So as I gain people in my state, I gain Senate seats, right? That's how that works. The acoustics in this room are near perfect. I could be whispering to you and you would hear every word I said. Now that's a great thing because when you come for a tour, the reason you're here is to listen to them. And that's what you hear. You hear every word. It's perfect, absolutely perfect. They voice vote, so they say yay and nay to answer when the vote is called. Very unusual, probably the only chamber in the whole country left over that still does yes and no as a vote. Because it's hard to ignore it. It's the biggest feature in the Capitol. It's called the Great Western Staircase, but we call it the $1 Million Staircase.
Oh yeah, I heard about that one.
$1.5 million to build it. Richardson's your architect, my soft and fuzzy man. We will come back after we see the assembly and check it out and talk about it. But I wanted you to see the assembly right away, so you have the halo effect. This is a guided tour. If you're interested in joining in, you can. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's the staircase.
There's the other one.
Yeah. You can see a difference in the pillars at the top.
I keep everybody away.
No cooties, no cooties.
Yeah, we don't go down to the chairs anyways. We're good to go. Okay, welcome to the New York State Assembly Chamber. Same deal, you're in the public gallery. It's open to the public. As my one guest was saying, she looked up what they were talking about. You can do that online any day and every day of your life. And you can come during session. They don't close the galleries, that's the point. You can come and be a part of it and listen to what's going on. Or sit in these seats or sit in the seats across the way. Right out of the gate, the big difference in the room is the architect. This is Leopold Eilitz, more Gothic, also Islamic and Moorish influences. Check out the arches over the stained glass windows. That's bas relief that's carved out and then painted to give it that look. The other big difference in the room is the number of chairs. I have 150 assembly members. Each one of them represents 175,000 people. A lot of people. The other big difference in the room is the acoustics. Because the room is so large, the largest in the whole building, you can't hear yourself think in here when they're deliberating. So in here they vote electronically. So you'll see screens under the stained glass windows. Those are not speakers, those are screens. When they're in session, they're going to have the assembly members' names lit up in lights. And as my assembly member votes, she presses a button on her desk. If she presses a red button for nay, I get a little red N next to her name. If she presses a green button for yay, I see a little green Y next to her name. So I instantly know how she's voted on the topic. Let's see, what else is going on? Oh, and I said in the Senate, people can't go on the floor. This is completely opposite here. You all can go through that door back there behind, it's on the 3rd floor, 2 flags on either side, kind of a round arch at the top. Walk right in. You didn't see me use a key to get in here. This isn't locked. This is called the People's House. You're more than welcome to go down in there after the tour and check it out, okay? During session, it's invited public. So the chairs that you see lined up in the back, that's where the invited public will be. Like yesterday, they were awarding some people commemorative awards for the volunteer services, and they were invited to sit on the floor and then go up and receive their awards. Sometimes it's school kids, sometimes it's law students, whoever's invited for the day. But today, because no one's in session, you are able to go on in and say hello to my friend Carol. Hello again.
Afternoon. It's been a long day.
So the story in here that the tour guides love to tell is about the ceiling. So if you look over your head, you can see the most beautiful ceiling I think I've ever been this close to in my life. Again, a cathedral feel a little bit to it, right? That exact ceiling was in the center of that room, went 56 feet up to the corner. The problem with it was only after 2 years. Room opened 1879, first room opened. After only 2 years, it started to crack. That's what was happening. That ground underneath was still a problem. And so it cracked. Cracks happen. This separated completely and was starting to fall down. The governor actually authorized $25,000 in life insurance for each assembly member for fear they were going to get killed by a falling boulder. Can you imagine? See how the people just walked into the floor back there? That's exactly okay. You can go in, take pictures, talk to Harold, he'll greet you, tell you stories. He's great. So feel free to do that. It's really cool down there. So then, what happened? So they replaced it with the ceiling. It was supposed to be like the one in the Senate, hand carved oak. So you can see inserts. It's different now. But what happened, we had a fire in the building in 1911. This is the biggest room. Firefighters came in and started to cool it off, keep it wet, so it didn't catch on fire. And they sprayed the ceiling, and as they're spraying that ceiling starts to fall down too. Okay, so it's called the unfortunate ceiling going forward. The contractor had substituted panels of paper mache instead of oak. And when you spray paper mache with water, no one would ever have known. That's how you don't spray your ceilings very often. But the remains of the paper mache that he was authorized to do, you can see the dark brown areas versus the light brown. The light brown is solid wood. The dark brown is called ochre. It's paper mache, carved to look like oak.
Was that in the contract?
That was. This was. But then he took a lot of liberties because it was cheaper for him. He said he was called out and brought back and was going to be sued. He said, no, I was told it was okay. Yeah, somebody told you to substitute 35 panels. Not all of them, just 35 of them. So it doesn't seem likely, but he never did. The suit was not successful because language was kind of off. If you have an appointment with Governor Kathy Hochul, this is where you sit and wait. You're on the executive floor. You wait here until you're called to her office. We don't call it that. We call it the war room. You can see the ceiling. You see the ceiling in this room. Every panel depicts war. It was the first place that we finally decided to pay homage to our military history in New York State. We couldn't have a dome. We never could have a dome because the ground underneath wasn't going to allow that to happen. We were afraid we're only on the east half of the building. Because we're a rectangle, we were going to put the dome on one end of the building. Who knew what was going to go on if it was going to sink? So they didn't extract the dome plan, but decided to create a rotunda, right? You can have an interior rotunda. So this was going to be the ceiling of the rotunda. We were going to take the floor out and make people come into the front door of those 77 steps into the first, or below 76 steps, into the first floor. What's below here is the flag. Our second place in the Capitol that pays homage to our military history. Every battle flag carried by a New York regiment in world history is down there. It's their furrow and label. What battle and what regiment carried them. This represents, every panel represents a war that a New Yorker would have fought in. So it's all about military history. So if we were going to create this rotunda and take out the floor, for what reason am I still standing on the floor? I'm standing on the floor because the room was opened for the first time by Governor Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That's kind of nice to think about. He opened this room and dedicated it on March in 1929. That rings a bell that date. In October of 1929, the stock market crashed. The Depression started. There would have been a politician or even a person who would have applied $1 to taking out a floor in a public building so they had a nice view. I mean, there were other worries and other things that needed to be taken care of. So the money was not appropriated for this project, and it still never was. So we are left with a pretty up-close personal view of war, images of war. The colored panels, the artist is named William Dodge, a famous muralist in the 1920s. He painted the ones that are in color in his studio in New York, and then brought them here and applied them to the wall. The only ones painted right on the wall, deceptively they look like they all are, the gray ones. The gray ones depict water battles, battles on oceans, rivers, and seas. Someone talked about the seal a little bit, so this is our state seal. It's kind of a sophomore version of our state seal. This means ever upward. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. This is Lady Liberty, or Lady Justice. Lady Justice has balanced scales, and she's blindfolded, always. This is Lady Liberty. Look at her foot. Right here at her foot, you'll see a crown. You know what that represents? That's a symbol for New York telling the King of England, see ya. We're no longer part of you. We're a state on our own. So giving the Crown of England a big heave up. So whenever you see a New York City seal, you'll see a crown always at the foot of Lady. Good little fun story. Trivia. Good trivia. All right, we're going to try to get into the next stop.
If you guys like these videos of trains and history stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe. They're at the bottom below my video. And also check out my links to donate to help with my adventures. I don't make any money pretty much off of the links. It's just to help with gas and, help you basically make more videos just like these. So if you could, that'd be greatly appreciated. Bye, guys.